Hi, this is Joshua. I'm with Indigenous POV. You can notice the Fraser River is super low. This time of year it's never this low. But I'm doing a video on Vehicle EDC, which is everyday carry. I didn't know what else to call it. Emergency stuff that you leave in your car. I've always had a bin full of stuff, summer and winter normally in my vehicle. I used to be a tower for 10-15 years, doing big rig towing, doing all kinds of towing, and I ran into a lot of people that were in emergency situations. They had to stop up the crasher, for instance, and stand for 8-9 hours. Some people were, even though it was the middle of winter, were thinking they're coming from their home to the car to another home, but then they get stuck. It's important if you're going from one town to another and you don't know what kind of weather is coming, wear the proper equipment. Like here, I'm wearing my boots and clothing. These are rubber winter boots, and I'm wearing just basically proper clothing that somebody would use if they're going in a cold scenario, for instance, from one place to another. I'm going to show you my everyday carry in my vehicle, but this is the first thing that I'd like to talk about. This is something that smashes window opens, it cuts safety belts. These things are important because several years ago, when I was still working as a tow truck driver, there was an older couple, and they ended up in going over embankment into the snow. We were called, we looked everywhere for them. We found them in the spring, and they went into a bank of snow. They couldn't get out, but if they went to their back window and smashed the top of the window, they would have been able to walk out, no matter what your age. So these are, use a ball peen hammer, use one of these. They're super important to keep with your everyday carry for your vehicle. So when a couple of weeks ago it was really cold, and people on one of the bridges in Vancouver were stranded for many hours. Many people were not properly dressed. They had problems. They were very cold. But what happens if you're on the highway and that highway gets closed down because of an avalanche, or there might be an avalanche behind you as well, and you do not have the proper tools to stay warm and alive? I'm going to show you a couple things about staying warm. I know probably on the internet you've seen a lot of these. They come in really handy. There's two systems by which you can keep warm, and this one here I've used many times to cut the heat off of a room, and it's just two clay pots, and I broke these open so they would have a clear way for the little tea lights to be able to heat it up. Remember to have a surface or have something that it can sit on in your vehicle to keep warm. This also works really well, but you got to practice and get the right sizing for the holes for it to work properly. This is also packed full of cotton, and I use 99% isopropanol that will keep this lit for literally for hours. But you need to remember, it's important when you're using propane, naphtha, when you're using tea lights, when you're using isopropanol to warm up your vehicle to cut out some of the heat, you need to bring down your window a little bit, because it will suck all the oxygen out of the air. Many years ago I had a friend up at Zop Kiosk that lived in a camper, and he used propane for heat, and he was found dead one morning because all the oxygen was out and he suffocated to death. And that's a sad story. If you were stuck for a long period of time, and people go, oh, this is not going to happen, well, it's happening more and more. People are ending up in scenarios where they're sitting in their vehicle for 24 hours, or 2 days. So what I'm doing, everything that I have outside of the blankets will fit in this bin. A lot of the stuff you'll have at home. You might have to purchase something, but be prepared. It saves lives. Now this is a small gas thing. I don't recommend it because they leak a lot of the time, but they are helpful to heat up water, to heat up soup, to heat up food, so you can stay warm. This one is my favorite. It's very inexpensive, and it uses regular propane containers, and they work really well. With that, I always carry with me a pot. It's just a single pot. If you've got 6 in your family, just use the one pot. It's all you need. It allows you to heat up water. It allows you to heat up different foods. So let me share with you some of the foods that I keep in my everyday carry for vehicle. Come on in. Can you see okay? I know it's messy in here, I know, but we do keep several things in the container. Definitely foods, dry foods. I carry lots of water. Now, as you can see, a lot of this water has been sitting here, is frozen. So if you are driving and you want to, you know, before you reach your destination, if you want to keep them on the inside and keep them warm, you can do that. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 waters. I've got mini noodles that I can make. What else here? I've got cans of soup, as you can see here, with water. I got beans, so I always carry a little bit of food in here. These noodles are great because they don't have palm oil in them, and they're really tasty. And that's with the food. I don't normally carry sugar, but I got a bag of tea in here, which is really awesome to have. And for drinks, instead of juices, I usually use Jello. Jello has electrolytes in it, and if you mix it a little bit with your water, it's decent to drink. Instead of sugar, I've always used hard sugar cane that I can crack pieces off to make tea and whatnot. And food wise, I think that's pretty much it. Oh, and I got a couple of cases of macaroni if you're going to stay longer than you expect. Another thing that's very important with food, and that people tend to forget, and they go, I know in the past they've gone into their garbage pans to find spoons and forks and knives and old cups, which sometimes they're successful, is your KFS. I have what's KFS's knife, fork, spoon, and I've got 2 or 3 sets of them in case there's other people involved, and I carry them with me at all times. So don't forget your KFS. Now, you may say, well, it's not going to happen to me. Let me tell you something. Be prepared. Also, when it comes to lighting, I've got different kinds of light. These are USB rechargeable lights. This one is my wife's, and they go really bright. Honestly, they're very bright. And of course, I always have different kinds of flashlights that I carry with me. How do you turn this off? Okay, there we go. It also has a red one for emergency. And talking about emergency, it's important that if visibility is hard to put a vest in there. If you are trying to get somewhere to safety, or report that you've been pushed into a snowbank or close to a river, these vests are lifesavers. It's important to have 1 or 2 with you, and also a pair of gloves. Now, it's important that you do not use if you can help it, don't use your battery power, and save your fuel. One of the biggest problems, I remember going to Zop kiosk when I was towing, a lot of people asked me when I worked for BCAA, do you have gas, do you have gas, do you have gas? Well, I only had enough gas for 2 or 3 vehicles. You only give them a certain portion. Save your fuel. The reason why you can have these little containers plus is to keep warm without using your engine, without using your battery power. Also, when it comes to getting weather information, I have in this a Ziploc is a radio that can get me weather information and other things so I can keep informed. In this bin that I carry with me, I always have a safety, a first aid kit. It's not super elaborate, but just enough for cuts and scrapes that might happen if one of the kids goes outside and he slips and knocks his head or gets cut, or yourself. You've got a first aid kit. Of course, toilet paper. Now the importance of toilet paper and you know, is if you need to go, you've got something to clean yourself off with. Now, the reason why I have rope, I also have a here we go. These things to me, in an emergency, in an everyday carry for a vehicle, is a shovel that you can possibly dig yourself out if you're in the snow, or to put your, you know, if you're digging a toilet, they're important to have. I've got a hatchet and a saw. Here's the big problem, sometimes people think that they can get around something. They end up going down a small little logging road and it's got a log or something. You might need to saw it. Usually they're too big, but at least you have something. With the spade, and a hatchet is always good if you're going to build a fire in a situation that, you know, you're going to be there for a while. Rope is important no matter what's going on. If you have something like a tarp, if your vehicle leaks, you can have a tarp that can go over your vehicle, or something that you might need in an emergency. I always have all kinds of flashlights available. Also with, it's good to have red if you're in an emergency situation and need help. In my vehicle, in the side here, I always carry a road flare. That's with a few different things. If you have the availability for a road flare, they come in handy, especially if you're in an emergency situation. Now, warmth is probably one of the most critical things outside of having your tea lights or your alcohol burner like these, and they do work, but like I said, you need to test them. It's not as easy as it looks. We always carry, summer and winter, we have blankets. These blankets that I put beside it are super important because they keep you warm. If you also have emergency blankets, you can use them to keep yourself warm with your blanket. Some people put them on the outside. I tend to put them on the inside and then put the blanket over, but whatever works for you. But always carry blankets with you in your everyday carry for your vehicle. Having cups. Now let me share something with you that can be very important for your warmth. When you take some water from the outside, let's say a creek or river, not your drinking water, but non-potable water, which if you look out here, there's a lot of creek water, there's snow. Fill up your pan and heat it up, and not to a boiling point, but you can take these 2-liter, 1-liter bottles and use them like hot water bottles. Just as long as the water is not boiling and a little bit cooler, they're literally lifesavers to create hot water bottles out of your containers here. What else? Okay, I just want to make one note about tea lights. I have tried maybe 4 or 5 different brands of tea lights. Most of them don't work. You light them, and after about a half hour, 20 minutes, they start to fizzle out. The only tea lights that I have found, and the whole thing is about testing, is you need to test them, are these. These tea lights come from IKEA. They're strong, they're durable, and the wick does not wear out. It doesn't flicker into nothingness. So use tea lights from IKEA or find brands that are a little bit more expensive. Don't get dollar store tea lights, because they do not work. We've tested them. Sometimes we will take a piece of a skewer out and put it in to make it work, but it's a living nightmare. Now, I always have a jumper box. This jumper box is awesome because let me find my, because if you're going to be there for a long time and you need to rejuice your lights or your phone or something that you're using, I always have a what do you call it, a Ziploc, and what it has in it is a plug that will fit into your vehicle. So because this one is awesome because it has both USB and this port for 12 volt. You can stick your 12 volt port in here as it activates, and you can stick your USB in to recharge your phone, recharge your lights. It has days and days of power. A lot of people have these super expensive doodads that they buy off the internet. This cost me, I guess, about 150 bucks a long time ago, and it served me really, really well. It's got a light on it and a good charging station, and if you need a jump, you can always jump your vehicle with it. I know it's a lot of stuff to think about. Remember, gloves are important, warmth is important, and everything that I have outside of the blankets fits into my EDC, my vehicle EDC. Please, folks, things are getting difficult in this world. We don't know what kind of weather is going to come. We don't know what's going to happen in any given day. So save your lives. And it also saves the lives of your family by getting yourself, and a lot of these items are in your home to get an emergency everyday carry for your vehicle. I hope this helps. You know, this has been on my heart for quite some time, is to get yourselves prepared. If you're going from, let's say, from Vancouver to Hope, people got stuck last year in Agassiz. People didn't have rope to throw to somebody to pull them, out of the water, and there's lots of rope here that can help save others and save yourselves. So be prepared, be stocked with water. I threw everything out so it isn't that looking friendly, but there's food here, there's teas here, there's sugar here, and one pan and some cups. And in your vehicle you might have your your Starbucks mug or your stuff that you can use. Keep your bin together. And yeah, this is Joshua from Indigenous POV.